Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her desk in the deep-sea research facility Nautilus, 7 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. The quantum readings made no sense. According to every known law of physics, the structure they'd discovered shouldn't exist. "Run the scan again," she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The massive array of sensors embedded in the ocean floor hummed to life, sending waves of data through the quantum processors that lined the walls of her laboratory. The results were identical, a perfect geometric pattern of quantum entanglement, stretching across a 3-kilometer span of the seafloor. Natural formations didn't create patterns like this. Even humanity's most advanced quantum computers couldn't maintain entanglement at this scale. "Dr. Chen," her assistant Marcus appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. "The UN Security Council is waiting for your report." Sarah nodded, gathering her thoughts. 6 months ago, their deep-sea mining operation had detected an anomaly. 3 months of careful excavation had revealed something impossible: the vast network of crystalline structures that defied current understanding of quantum mechanics. Now, the world's leaders wanted answers. The holoscreen flickered to life, revealing the faces of the Security Council members. Sarah noticed Admiral Zhang of the Chinese Space Force leaning forward, his expression intense. The Americans and Europeans looked equally focused. Even the usually stoic Russian representative seemed on edge. "Distinguished council members," Sarah began, "what we found isn't just advanced technology. It's beyond anything humanity has even theorized." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show the crystalline network. "This structure appears to be a quantum gateway, likely millions of years old. Its complexity suggests it was built by a civilization far more advanced than our current level. More advanced than the collective." The British representative's question hung in the air. The collective, the confederation of alien species that had welcomed humanity into galactic society 50 years ago, claimed technological superiority in all fields. "Yes," Sarah replied firmly. "The collective's quantum technology isn't even close to this level. We've compared it to everything in their shared database. This is different, more elegant, more powerful." Admiral Zhang spoke up. "And you believe you can activate it?" Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. "We already have. Partially." The initial power-up sequence revealed something extraordinary. She paused, making sure she had everyone's attention. "The gateway responds to human brainwave patterns. Specifically, it appears calibrated to human consciousness." The room erupted in murmurs. Everyone understood the implications. The collective had always treated humans as technological inferiors, limiting their access to advanced science under the guise of guidance. But this discovery suggested a different story. "There's more," Sarah continued. "We've decoded some of the quantum data stored in the crystalline matrix. It contains technological information far beyond our current understanding, or the collective's. But more importantly, it contains a warning." The room fell silent. Sarah pulled up another hologram, showing a series of complex equations and diagrams. "The creators of this gateway left it for us to find, but they were explicit. This knowledge cannot be shared with the collective. According to the data, the collective isn't what they claim to be. They're not a benevolent confederation. They're parasites." Admiral Zhang's face hardened. "Explain." "The collective doesn't guide species to advancement. They deliberately stunt their development, keeping them dependent while harvesting their resources and creative potential. The gateway creators called them the harvesters, an ancient species that maintains power by keeping others weak." The UN Secretary General leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, are you certain about this translation?" Sarah nodded. "The quantum language is complex but unambiguous. The gateway creators left this technology specifically for humanity to find when we reached a certain level of development. They believed we had the potential to break the collective's cycle of control." "And what happens?" the Russian representative asked quietly, "when the collective discovers what we found?" Sarah pulled up one final hologram, a technical schematic that had taken her teen weeks to understand. That's why we need to act quickly. This isn't just a gateway. It's also a defense system. The crystalline network can be adapted into a planetary shield, one that operates on principles the collective doesn't understand. We can protect ourselves, but we need to move fast. The Secretary General studied the data carefully. How long? 3 months to bring the shield online. 6 months to begin implementing the new technologies. The gateway creators left us detailed instructions, but we'll need global cooperation. Every quantum lab, every research facility, working together. Admiral Zhang smiled grimly. And then we tell the collective that their game is over. Sarah nodded. Yes, but they won't give up easily. The warning was clear about that too. The collective has destroyed civilizations that threatened to break free before. We'll need to be ready. The Secretary General looked at each council member in turn, receiving nods of agreement. Dr. Chen, you have full authorization. Every resource you need. Humanity has lived under the collective's thumb for 50 years. It's time we showed them who we really are. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to look at the vast crystalline structure visible through the reinforced windows of the Nautilus. Its surface seemed to pulse with an inner light, as if responding to humanity's decision. Soon, the collective would learn that their carefully maintained system of control was about to face something they'd never expected. A species that refused to remain trapped in their cage. The real question was, how far would the collective go to maintain their power? And would humanity's newfound advantages be enough to survive their response? Sarah had a feeling they would all find out soon enough. High above Earth, the collective's diplomatic vessel Eternal Harmony drifted in geosynchronous orbit. Its crystalline spires caught the sunlight, refracting it into patterns that had awed humanity when they first arrived 50 years ago. Now those same patterns felt like bars on a cage. Inside the ship's grand chamber, High Ambassador Exilarian of the collective stood before the assembled human representatives. His iridescent scales rippled with subtle colors, a sign of confusion that his species couldn't fully suppress. You request an emergency session, yet refuse to state the reason. Silarian's translator conveyed the mixture of curiosity and mild annoyance in his tone. The collective has guided humanity for half a century. Such unconventional behavior is concerning. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside Admiral Zhang and the UN Secretary General, her hand unconsciously touching the quantum data crystal hanging from her neck. 6 months of frantic work had led to this moment. The planetary shield was online, though invisible to the collective sensors. Humanity's greatest technological leap was complete, hidden beneath a carefully maintained facade of continued dependence. The Secretary General stepped forward. High Ambassador, we've gathered to inform you of a change in our relationship with the collective. Silarian's scales shifted to a deeper blue of amusement. A change. The collective's guidance protocols are quite clear. Your species has centuries of development ahead before any significant adjustments would be appropriate. No, the Secretary General's voice was firm. We're not asking for adjustments. We're informing you that Earth is declaring complete independence from the collective, effective immediately. The chamber fell silent. Silarian's scales went completely still, a reaction Sarah had never seen before. The other collective representatives seemed frozen in place. Perhaps, Silarian said carefully, there has been a translation error. Your species lacks the technological advancement to. We know what you are, Sarah interrupted, stepping forward. She held up her data crystal. We know what the collective really does to developing civilizations. The Harvesters. That's your true name, isn't it? Silarian's scales turned ash-gray. The other collective representatives began speaking rapidly in their native languages, their translators unable to keep up with their agitation. Where did you get that term? Silarian's voice had lost its diplomatic smoothness. Admiral Zhang smiled coldly. From those who came before you, the ones you couldn't control. They left us a message, Ambassador, and so much more. Sarah activated her crystal, projecting a hologram of the Quantum Gateway's technical schematics. Your guidance has been a lie from the start. You restrict technology, limit advancement, keep species dependent while draining their resources and creative potential. But humanity is done playing your game. These accusations are dangerous. Solarian scales now pulsed with angry reds. The collective's response to such rebellion would be severe. For your own protection, we will need to establish direct control over your major population centers until this confusion can be resolved. The Secretary General laughed, a sound that seemed to startle the collective representatives. You're not listening, Ambassador. We're not asking permission. We're telling you that your ships, your advisors, your monitoring stations, all of them will leave Earth space immediately. Or what? Solarian's translator couldn't fully capture the menace in his tone, but it didn't need to. Sarah stepped forward again, meeting his gaze. Or we'll show you exactly what humanity can do with the gifts left for us by those who failed to harvest. She nodded to Admiral John, who pressed a sequence on his tactical pad. Around Earth, previously invisible quantum fields shimmed into visibility for a brief moment, a crystalline shield encompassing the entire planet. Impossible, one of the other collective representatives whispered. This technology is beyond what you allowed us to have. Sarah finished. That was your mistake. You were so focused on controlling what we could learn from you. You never wondered what we might learn from others. Solarian's scales had turned almost white, a sign of fear, Sarah realized. He knew what this meant. The collective's perfect system of control had failed. Humanity had broken free. The collective has faced rebellion before, Solarian said quietly. None have survived. We're counting on that response, Admiral John replied. In fact, we're looking forward to showing you exactly why trying to harvest humanity will be the biggest mistake the collective has ever made. The Secretary General raised his hand, and Earth's quantum communications array, another gift from the Gateway, severed the connection to the collective ship. The last image they saw was Solarian scales turning the deep crimson of rage. In the sudden silence, Sarah turned to her colleagues. How long? Admiral Zhang checked his tactical display. They'll need to contact the nearest collective fleet. Given their FTL capabilities, I'd say we have 2 weeks at most before they try to force us back into line. The Secretary General nodded grimly. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare humanity for war. Dr. Chen, is the Gateway ready for the next phase? Sarah looked at her data crystal, thinking of the vast repository of knowledge it contained. Weapons, defenses, technologies that would change everything. Yes, the Gateway creators left us everything we need. They knew this day would come. They'd been waiting for a species with the will to fight back. And the collective? Zhang asked. They'll come with everything they have. Sarah smiled, remembering the words encoded in the Gateway's quantum matrix. To those who find this, know that you are not alone in your fight for freedom. We have waited millennia for a species with the potential to break the harvester's cycle. The tools we leave you are not just weapons. They are the keys to liberation. Use them well. Let them come, she said. Humanity is done being harvested. It's time we showed the galaxy what we can really do. Above them, the collective ship's engines flared to life, burning fast and hot as it fled Earth orbit. The message would already be racing across space to the nearest collective fleet. Humanity has broken free. Humanity must be contained. But humanity had other plans. The collective's response came sooner than expected. 9 days after Earth's declaration, the quantum detection grid lit up with hundreds of signatures emerging from faster-than-light travel. The harvesters had arrived with enough firepower to subjugate a dozen worlds. In the heart of Nautilus Command, now transformed into Earth's primary defense center, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with Admiral Zhang and the rest of Earth's unified command staff. The crystalline matrix from the Gateway had been integrated into their systems, giving them unprecedented clarity in tracking the incoming fleet. 57 capital ships, Zhang announced, his voice tight. Over 300 support vessels. They're not here to negotiate. Sarah studied the quantum readings flowing through her neural interface, another gift from the Gateway's database. They're deploying in a standard harvester suppression pattern, just like the Gateway creators warned us they would. The Secretary General's hologram appeared in the command center. Status of the shield: operating at full capacity, Sarah replied. But they don't know that yet. Their scans show Earth exactly as they expect to find it, defenseless except for our primitive orbital platforms. Zhang smiled grimly. Let them think that right up until they try to land their peacekeeping forces. The collective fleet moved with precision, spreading out to surround Earth in a three-dimensional grid that would have made escape impossible, if escape had been humanity's plan. At the center of their formation, a massive vessel emerged from FTL. Its design was unlike anything in the collective's known arsenal. New contact, one of the sensor operators called out. Energy readings are off the scale. Sir, it's the collective's flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Sarah's neural interface pulsed with recognition as it matched the ship to records from the Gateway. The Harvester's ultimate weapon of control. They've only used it 3 times in recorded history, each time to completely suppress a civilization that tried to break free. Then we should feel honored, Zhang replied dryly. They're taking us seriously. The command center's main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. High Ambassador Xilarian's image appeared, his scales now a deep purple of authority. Behind him stood a new figure, taller, more ornately decorated, with scales that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. People of Earth, the new figure spoke, its translator conveying a voice of cold command. I am Supreme Overseer Vexterra of the Collective. Your recent confusion has necessitated my personal attention. Sarah stepped forward, knowing the gesture would irritate them. A mere human daring to address the Supreme Overseer directly. Earth's position was clearly stated. Overseer, there is no confusion here. Dr. Chen. Vexterra's scales rippled with something like amusement. The collective has guided countless species across millennia. Some, like yours, occasionally develop delusions of independence. We find that a demonstration of reality quickly resolves such misconceptions. The tactical display suddenly blazed with warnings. The collective fleet was powering up weapons, enough firepower to glass Earth's surface. You have 1 standard hour to surrender control of your planetary governance, Vexterra continued. After that, we will be forced to implement emergency preservation protocols. Your species will survive, but your civilization will be significantly reduced. Zhang stepped forward. And if we refuse, then the collective will do what it has always done to maintain order. We will remake your world into something more manageable. Sarah touched her neural interface, connecting directly to the quantum shield network. Around her, other operators did the same, their minds linking through the crystalline matrix in a way the collective had never imagined possible. Overseer, she said calmly, the Gateway creators left us a message for this exact moment. Would you like to hear it? Vexterra's scales flickered with irritation. Your primitive attempts at. They said to tell you. The harvest ends here. Sarah sent the mental command through her neural link. Across Earth's surface, hundreds of quantum nodes activated simultaneously. The planetary shield shimmered into visibility, but this time it was different. Patterns of energy coursed through it, forming geometries that caused the collective representatives to physically recoil. Impossible, Xilarian whispered. Those patterns, there. The same ones you've been running from for 10,000 years, Sarah finished. The Gateway creators aren't as gone as you hoped. Vexterra's scales had turned pure white. All ships, open fire. Full power. Break their shield before. The collective fleet erupted in a coordinated barrage that would have annihilated any normal planetary defense. But as the energy weapons struck Earth's shield, something extraordinary happened. The quantum matrix didn't just absorb the attacks, it redirected them, transforming their energy into new patterns that rippled across the shield's surface. Fascinating, isn't it? Sarah said, watching the energy dance. The Gateway creators called it recursive defense. The harder you hit it, the stronger it becomes. They spent millennia perfecting it, specifically to counter harvester weapons. Warning signals blared through the collective fleet as their own energy weapons were turned back on them, transformed into quantum strikes that their shields had no way to counter. Ships began falling out of formation, their systems overloaded by energies they couldn't understand. "This is your only warning," Sarah announced, her voice carried across the quantum network to every collective vessel. "Leave Earth space. Tell the other harvesters what you found here. Tell them that humanity is not your prey." The Eternal Dominion's massive engines flared to life, retreating from the failed attack. Around it, the surviving ships of the collective fleet scrambled to follow, their perfect formation dissolving into chaos. As the enemy fleet fled, Zhang turned to Sarah. "They'll be back, with something worse." Sarah nodded, watching the quantum readings of their retreat. "Yes, but now they know we can hurt them. And next time," she gestured to the tactical display, where new quantum signatures were emerging from the gateway deep beneath the Pacific. "Next time, we'll show them what humanity can really do with the Gateway creator's legacy." The Secretary General's hologram smiled. "Then we better get to work, because the real war is just beginning." Deep beneath the ocean, the quantum gateway pulsed with power, preparing to share more of its secrets with the species that had finally proved worthy of its creator's trust. The harvesters had ruled the galaxy through fear and control for too long. Humanity was about to change everything. A month after the failed collective assault, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in a chamber that shouldn't exist. The quantum gateway had revealed its greatest secret yet, a vast meeting hall hidden between dimensions, created by the ancient gateway builders as a neutral ground for decisive moments in history. The room defied normal physics. Its walls shifted between states of matter. Its ceiling opened to views of distant galaxies, and its floor hummed with quantum energies that could be felt through the neural interfaces humanity now wore. But what truly drew attention were the holograms appearing around the central table, representatives from a dozen worlds that had been secretly fighting the collective's control. "We've been waiting centuries for this moment," said Ambassador Corell of the Andromedans, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns similar to the gateway's architecture. "When we detected the quantum signature of your defense grid, we knew the gateway creators had finally found their chosen successors." Sarah exchanged glances with Admiral Zhang and the Secretary General. The past month had brought revelation after revelation. Earth wasn't alone in its resistance. They were simply the first to successfully activate a gateway's full potential. "The Collected's response fleet is gathering," Zhang reported to the assembled allies. "Our quantum sensors detect over 500 capital ships. They're stripping defenses from a dozen systems for this attack." As expected, Corell's crystalline form pulsed with what Sarah had learned was amusement. "The harvesters cannot allow the truth to spread. Once one world successfully breaks free, others will follow." The chamber's entrance sparkled with quantum energy as the final expected participant arrived. Supreme Overseer Vex Terra materialized, flanked by heavily armed guards. His scales now showed patches of gray, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "This meeting violates all collective protocols," he began, then stopped as he took in the impossible chamber and the assembled representatives. His scales turned white with shock. "How? These species aren't supposed to be able to communicate with each other. The barriers between. The barriers you created." Sarah interrupted. "The careful isolation of each species, the controlled flow of technology, the subtle manipulation of development. Those barriers are falling, Overseer, and we know why you created them." She gestured, and the chamber filled with new holograms. Historical records from the Gateway's database. They showed the truth the collective had hidden for millennia. Their rise to power, their systematic suppression of advancing civilizations, and the real reason for their harvesting of resources and creative potential. "You're not building an enlightened galactic society," Sarah continued. You're building a weapon. A quantum device massive enough to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Every resource you've harvested, every technology you've stolen, every creative breakthrough you've suppressed. All fuel for your ultimate goal. Vexterra's scales rippled with complex patterns. You cannot understand the necessity. We understand perfectly, Corel interrupted. The Gateway creators left warnings about your true purpose. You fear them, the ones who exist outside normal space, the entities you detected at the galaxy's edge. Instead of uniting the galaxy against this potential threat, you chose to enslave it, to drain it for your own weapon. The Secretary General stepped forward. But that ends now. Humanity offers you a choice, Supreme Overseer, one that comes from a position of strength, not weakness. Sarah pulled up new holograms, technical schematics that made Vexterra's scales pulse with disbelief. The Gateway creators didn't just leave us weapons and defenses. They left us solutions, ways to protect the galaxy that don't require the enslavement of countless species, technologies that work better when civilizations cooperate rather than when they're suppressed. Impossible, Vexterra whispered. We've searched for such solutions for thousands of years. You searched while clinging to power, Ambassador Corel noted. The Gateway creators knew that only a species free from such obsessions could unlock their greater gifts. Humanity proved worthy precisely because they sought independence not just for themselves, but for all. Zhang activated a tactical display, showing the gathered collective fleet. Your Armada has two choices, Overseer. Continue your attack and face weapons you cannot counter, technologies you cannot comprehend, and allies you never knew existed. Or Sarah finished, work with us. Join a true coalition of species. Help us prepare the galaxy for whatever lies beyond its edges, not through control and fear, but through cooperation and shared strength. Vexterra moved to the central table, his guards shifting nervously as the quantum energies reacted to his presence. And if the collective refuses, the Secretary General's voice was firm. Then Earth and its allies will dismantle your power structure piece by piece. The Gateway creators left us everything we need to free every harvested world, to unlock every suppressed potential. The choice is yours, evolution or extinction. The chamber fell silent as Vexterra studied the technical schematics still floating in the air. His scales shifted through colors Sarah had never seen before, suggesting thoughts and emotions his species rarely experienced. The collective has ruled through certainty, he finally said, through control, through knowing the outcome of every situation. But now, he looked around the impossible chamber. Now we face true uncertainty, true choice. Sarah touched her neural interface, connecting to the quantum field that permeated the room. Sometimes, Overseer, uncertainty is the only path to growth. The Gateway creators understood that. Now it's your turn to learn it. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance as Vexterra considered Earth's offer. The choice between control and cooperation, between fear and hope, between remaining the harvesters or becoming something new. And deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the quantum gateway pulsed with ancient power, ready to shape whatever future emerged from this moment of truth. 1 year after the historic negotiation, the quantum gateway chamber hummed with activity. Representatives from over 100 worlds filled the space, their various forms illuminated by the shifting cosmic displays above. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the central podium, her neural interface connecting her to the quantum field that united them all. The transformation hasn't been easy, she addressed the assembled delegates. Change never is, but the numbers speak for themselves. Behind her, holographic displays showed the progress of what historians were already calling the Great Liberation. 78 formerly harvested worlds had activated their own gateways. 312 species had broken free from collective control. The galaxy was awakening. Supreme Overseer Vexterra, now bearing the new title of Cooperation Coordinator, stepped forward. His scales showed colors that had been rare among his species before, greens and blues of growth and possibility. The collective's transition to the new galactic cooperation has exceeded all projections, he reported. 93% of our former administrative structure has embraced the change. Those who cling to the old ways of harvesting find themselves increasingly isolated. Admiral Zhang, now Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Defense Council, brought up a tactical display of the galaxy's outer rim. The quantum detection network is expanding daily. Our understanding of the extragalactic entities grows with each new gateway activation. The threat is real, but for the first time, we're truly preparing for it. Sarah nodded, remembering the gateway creator's warnings about what lay beyond the galaxy's edge. The collective's fear had been justified, but their response had nearly doomed them all. Only through unity and shared advancement could the galaxy hope to face what was coming. Ambassador Kurl's crystalline form pulsed with satisfaction. The gateway creators would be proud. Their plan, seeded across thousands of worlds over millions of years, has finally borne fruit. Humanity proved to be exactly the catalyst they predicted, capable of both independence and cooperation. The Secretary General stepped up to join Sarah at the podium. But our work is just beginning. The Gateway Network shows signs of even deeper activation. There are more secrets to unlock, more advances to discover. Sarah touched her neural interface, connecting to the quantum field that now linked countless worlds. Through it, she could feel the pulse of civilization itself. Billions of minds working together, advancing together, preparing together. The Gateway creators' greatest gift hadn't been their technology, but their vision of what a united galaxy could achieve. We've received the first signals from the Andromeda Galaxy, she announced, bringing up new data streams. Other gateway networks are activating. Other civilizations are breaking free from their own versions of the harvesters. What we've started here is spreading. Vexterra's scales shifted to show complex patterns of wonder. My species spent millennia believing that control was the only path to survival. We were so wrong. In just 1 year of true cooperation, we've advanced further than we did in 1,000 years of harvesting. The chamber's quantum field rippled with a new energy signature. All eyes turned to the center of the room as a hologram materialized, more advanced and complex than any they'd seen before. A message from the Gateway creators themselves, unlocked by the achievement of their goals. Greetings, inheritors. The message began, its quantum-encoded words translating perfectly for each species present. If you are receiving this, then our long wait has ended. You have done what we could not. United a galaxy not through force or fear, but through the strength of shared purpose. Sarah felt the weight of history as the message continued. The challenges ahead are greater than any single species can face. But together, you now have the potential to succeed where we failed. The gateways are yours. The future is yours. We pass the torch of civilization to worthy hands. The message faded, leaving the chamber in thoughtful silence. Finally, the Secretary General spoke. From a single discovery beneath Earth's ocean to an interstellar revolution, I'm not sure any of us could have predicted this outcome. Sarah smiled, remembering those first confused readings from the seafloor facility. The Gateway creators did. They knew that somewhere, sometime, a species would emerge that could break the cycle of harvest and control. They just had to wait long enough. And now, Zhang asked, looking at the galactic display with its thousands of newly awakened worlds. Now we do what humanity has always done, Sarah replied. We explore, we learn, we grow. But this time, we do it not just for ourselves, but for every species that shares this galaxy. The age of harvest is over. The age of cooperation has begun. The quantum field pulsed with agreement as representatives from across the galaxy, former controllers and controlled alike, joined minds and purpose. Above them, the cosmic display showed new gateways activating in distant systems, new civilizations awakening to their potential, new allies joining the greatest collaboration in galactic history. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the first gateway thrummed with ancient power, its mission finally fulfilled. Humanity had not just claimed its own freedom, it had helped birth a new era for all of civilization. The harvest had ended. The planting of new possibilities had begun. And somewhere beyond the galaxy's edge, in the darkness between the stars, ancient entities stirred. But this time, they would not find a galaxy divided and weakened by harvest. They would face the united strength of thousands of worlds, bound together by the very forces the harvesters had once sought to suppress. The future was uncertain, but that was exactly as it should be. For in uncertainty lay the seeds of growth, of innovation, of evolution itself. Humanity had learned that lesson well. Now it was time to help the rest of the galaxy remember it too.